Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go over to those Bitcoin 4-hour charts. Well, just look at it. Is it not a thing? Is it not a thing of beauty? Bitcoin is doing what Bitcoin is supposed to do when we get obviously things going on in the world where the powers try to flex and weaponize the current financial system, the current highly centralized, monopolized, and now weaponized system. The system that is has always been weaponized against the people, always been weaponized against people via inflation. You're all losing out. The rich are getting richer, the poor are basically getting poorer, struggling. That's why we've done all sorts of things like why we have in inverted commas equality, women in the workplace now, because basically just the guy can no longer afford to support a whole household. So obviously the women had to go and basically jump on that hamster wheel as well. But yeah, it's now being weaponized against other countries, and obviously that does play into a more decentralized, more fair currency. Obviously Bitcoin isn't perfect, crypto is not perfect, nothing is perfect. But some things are less imperfect than others. So yeah, we are getting a pump based off the back of that. What I will also very quickly go over to is obviously the ruble against the dollar. This decline, I don't know if you guys are paying too much attention, but when we had obviously the startings of the in inverted commas collapse of the Turkish lira, that was literally directly inversely correlated with obviously the lira going down and Bitcoin going up, as obviously people were exiting the lira and well, obviously at the fringes, at the margins. Remember, prices are made at the margins, and basically going into Bitcoin as a form of wealth preservation, ability to transfer money and all that fun stuff. That is this is basically what is going on at the moment with the dollar getting whacked. If this ruble was to recover all the way back up, you would potentially expect Bitcoin weakness, but this is what we've got going on. So maybe we have a new driver. If we want to go and look at what stock markets are doing, stock markets are okay, but we've obviously been here and Bitcoin wasn't anywhere near where it is now, but we are looking all right in stock markets. I mean, there is no doubt that the new billions that is been announced by Germany and the US to be spent on defense spending, on weapons spending, is no doubt buoying these stock markets. The free money that is going to have to be printed, no doubt, is pumping these stock markets. And yeah, there's going to be some there's going to be not ironically, there's going to be some global elites back there that are like, well, now we've got a new war, we've got a new, maybe a cold war, a new whatever, we got all our weapons spending, we're going to make loads more money, more currency is going to be created, our assets are going to go up, and basically who cares about, I wouldn't even say the poor people, but they are relatively poor compared to them, but just the average person, the middle class person, just all people other than them. It is basically what is going on. So yeah, stocks also looking good. You can see the dollar index falling back below this level, as we pretty much expected, because I mean at some point this is going to have to price in some difficult times. The 10-year obviously coming down here as well, potentially. People obviously going for people obviously thinking that this situation with energy, basically this is an energy play, this is an energy situation, is going to impact the economy. I mean, it's clearly an energy play. Look at oil moving, look at this go. So yeah, I mean, if you want to look at the charts, we are basically looking like we are putting in obviously a low, a high, a low, and we are gunning to take out this high. This is a pretty aggressive move. These moves don't this sort of aggressive move isn't going to just pull back all the way back down. It may pull back into the support around 42,000. It may just continue onwards and upwards. There was obviously a lot of resistance and worry around the $40,000 level, but that has so cleanly been bust through now. I mean, this is part of it. There will obviously be a lot of shorting and people selling at that level, but now they're all done. They are basically, we are now blasting through, and that's just kind of how markets work. So we've only really got these levels left to play with, this $47,000, and then I think we will be fully confirmed as a trend reversal here. and be looking for, like I said, either a new lower high relative to these highs around the $58,000 level, or just new all-time highs. But this is an aggressive move here, and it doesn't take won't take much more of a move like this to get us back into the $50,000 levels, at which point that would be a very aggressive move over a relative short period of time, even if it takes like a week or two, and that would not indicate that we're gonna stop there. That would indicate maybe some sideways consolidation, continue on upwards. So yeah, I mean, like, we can talk about what is going on with Russia. I mean, obviously this whole SWIFT stuff, this weaponizing of the financial system, I mean, it just doesn't, none of this really plays well. None of this realistically plays well for the US. I mean, that is why ultimately Russia probably has done what it's done, because it's assessed the options, and the US and Europe is in such a fragile position. The America basically is basically importing all the stuff it needs. It is energy not independent anymore, and obviously Russia is massively energy independent. I mean, it knows that you know that America is vulnerable, obviously, with the inflation levels which it can drive up with this. It also knows Europe is dependent on Russian gas, and obviously at the whims of inflation also. So I think that why he's taking this opportunity. So then, obviously, as the West tries to respond, there isn't really too much they can do. They're doing kind of what they think they should do, or what they can do, and ultimately it's all just going to backfire, because that is probably the outcomes that have been assessed. It's been assessed by Russia. So like what can happen here if basically Russia can't sell its oil in dollars via the SWIFT system? It can basically sell it to China at a discount, strengthening China, putting China in a better position, reducing inflation in China, giving them cheap energy which they need, whilst basically to the detriment of the West, basically Europe and America. I mean, is that good? Is that good? They will also transact in whatever that Chinese inter-border payment system, whatever they've got. I think it's called KIPS or something, SIPS or something. Chinese. I think that's literally what it is. Chinese whatever international payment system. They can use that. Russia's got a lot of cards to play here, just because of the indebtedness of the West, the exorbitant privilege of the US dollar as the world reserve currency is only something. There's only downside to that. You can't. Do you know what I mean? There's only downside. If you are the world reserve currency, you can either remain, in which case that's the status quo, or you can lose it. So there's downside. It's so there you go. So yeah, they've got, the US is obviously going to struggle with that, and yeah, I mean, it's not really a good time, obviously, with energy prices going nuts. I mean, prices are made at the margins. If you remove Russian energy supplies from the market, or at least from the Western market, I mean, we very quickly have $200 oil, and basically the West is in recession instantly, and probably a depression, and it's just, I mean, these are dangerous outcomes, because desperation is what obviously leads to crazy things. I wouldn't potentially say Russia is desperate with his actions. Obviously, it is annoyed with what NATO is doing, but it's not a desperate act what it's doing. It's probably quite calm and calculated. It will be the West, the US, that will probably be the one actually. If anybody is to start to do desperate things, it will probably be the US that does desperate things, because they are in a desperate, dire situation. They are not energy independent. They don't produce the goods that they need, and they have the world reserve status. Basically, it's theirs to lose. It's theirs to lose. They have problems with China, its biggest trade partner. I mean, they are basically in a weak position. They're in a decline of empire position. And yeah, I mean, they are going to be the desperate ones. They are potentially going to be the ones that press that red button before anyone else does, because they're just desperate. All we can really hope for, the fact is that the country is politically fragmented on a social basis, like people. are highly dichotomized in the country, so maybe they don't really have the stomach for it. But obviously, speaking of having the stomach for it, obviously food price inflation, and don't forget Russia and Ukraine are some of the biggest producers of grains and things, and obviously fertilizers also for that the rest of the world. I mean, honestly, the West is in a mess. There is no real the West is in a mess if obviously they try and do, if basically Russia decides that it wants to do anything crazy. I mean, they can start to say that, well, we won't use the dollar system. If you want to buy out oil, you want to buy energy, you literally have to buy rubles to do it. And then obviously Europe's going to have to sell euros and buy rubles to then buy the energy that they need. That is one option. Russia could basically say, well, we want to be paid in gold, in physical gold, in which case that is going to absolutely destroy basically this whole paper gold market derivatives thing. And yeah, don't forget, poor Volker said that gold is his enemy. Gold is his enemy because gold is the thermometer. Gold is not like, it's not like gold is his enemy. Gold is just the thermometer that measures basically these stupid actions that they're doing. It's like saying, like, you go to a desert and you basically say the thermometer is your enemy. It's not. It's the heat. And obviously, gold isn't central bank's enemy. It is what the central banks are doing that is basically their enemy, so to speak. Not the thermometer itself. But yeah, Russia could say we need gold, in which case people are going to start obviously buying physical gold to send to Russia. That system collapses very quickly. Gold has to get repriced up massively, and then central bankers are literally stood there with their in their hand, wondering like, what are they going to do about this situation. So also maybe the West could then actually turn to Bitcoin and say, like, look, well, okay, let's look more into using Bitcoin, seeing as basically the gold market is screwed. We are basically short gold, America and the banks, and obviously Russia is long gold, China is long gold. Basically a lot of the countries America doesn't like are long gold because they've shifted into that, because they obviously, it's obvious that this financial system is going to be weaponized. But yeah, maybe they'd have to look to something else. Maybe Bitcoin gets another leg up off the back of that. But yeah, I personally think things are looking good for decentralized currencies, payment systems, because the centralized system is in much the same way as we're probably in a period of deglobalization. We are in a period of basically deglobalization stroke centralization of currencies also. So yeah, it's interesting to see how this will play out. First and foremost, though, we have the technicality of the chart, which is in a downtrend. If we can put in a low and start to go in an uptrend, not only will we have these geopolitical drivers, we will have the trend. And there is lots of capital that literally just follow the trend. If stock markets are going to remain weak, there's a lot of money in stock markets. If some of that money starts to think, well, let's jump onto this Bitcoin trend now, because the stocks aren't going anywhere, Bitcoin is looking good, crypto is looking good. I mean, just imagine what that can do. Imagine what that can do for this asset. So yeah, things are potentially looking good. Like I said, ultimately it comes down to Bitcoin is potentially doing what Bitcoin should do. Obviously, we do know it literally has been acting as a risk asset. It is basically been acting as a high beta NAS coin, just going up and down more than tech stocks. But I mean, that isn't what Bitcoin is. That may be how it was trading for a period, but ultimately that isn't going to be how Bitcoin ends. It just trades as a high beta tech stock. That is not, because that's not what it is. It is a separate thing. It is a separate asset class. It is the first new asset class that has been introduced to financial markets. Basically, I don't even know, for hundreds of years. I guess since we had bonds. Bonds was probably the last one, because I guess we've always had precious metals, maybe equities in companies on the stock market. Obviously they were a new one, but obviously would have businesses that people learn equities in. But yeah, cryptocurrency has been the first new asset class. And yeah, maybe we'll see more basically cycling into that asset class, and it being its own asset class with its own drivers that is separate to literally just following stocks. I mean, at the end of the day, it was literally just following liquidity like everything else was. So if it's now going to basically actually start trading off some of its fundamentals, which let's face it, this is how things are priced. If it is not necessarily used as a world reserve currency, it is basically pricing in the percentage chance of it going to be, and then obviously what its value be if it was. I mean, basically what its value would be if it was world reserve currency, and then discounted by the percentage chance of it being that world reserve currency status. And obviously with things as they are, its percentage chance of being that world reserve currency is increasing, even if it's somewhat from a low base, and therefore its value is increasing because it is obviously the discounting figure is decreasing. So yeah, there we go. Interesting times. Yeah, a little bit of a rant there. I don't think Russia is stupid. I think we are starting to see the first signs of this. I mean, there's no real coincidence this started when obviously the West started to agree on putting real sanctions onto Russia, and as in through the financial system and all this. I mean, it's just the reason why for me this whole situation with Russia was very calculated from the Russians' part is the fact it leaves the West with so little options. I mean, energy prices are so elevated at the moment, and America has become energy non-independent, and I'm not even going to go into the politics of that. Europe is struggling with energy concerns as well. I think, yeah, I think it is all very planned, because ultimately the end game is you can't really do much, otherwise you are literally going to destroy the fabric of society basically. In the Western world, and yeah, there is going to be absolute mayhem without any red buttons being pressed. There is going to be similar levels of mayhem. So wow, that's pretty downbeat, but I mean, maybe the world does need more decentralization. It does need to. We need to basically stop America doing all the stuff they do anyway, all the trouble they cause around the world, literally just for their elites to make more money and their country just to become more powerful, and not really care about their own actual people. But anyway, let's look at the 4-hour stochastic. 4-hour here moving up nicely, looking to get to a high area, but still got juice in that tank. Still 10-hour did turn up as it was looking like it was going to do yesterday. Same with 12-hour. Daily still looking very good, entering the bullish area, looking very good here. 2-day turning back up now, very nice to see. 3-day turning back up, very nice to see. 5-day still doing its thing. 5-day and weekly, as we've been looking at, have just been signaling the potential for a nice next leg up. Weekly looking to turn back, bi-weekly looking to potentially turn back up as well, and obviously monthly still coming down, but that is obviously a slow mover. But yeah, it is looking good. It is looking like we can put this downward move to bed. We shall have to see what happens. Like I said, we need to realistically keep an eye on what is going on with the ruble, because I mean, let's face it, the ruble is not the well, I say like, this statement taken out of context may sound silly. The ruble is not the currency of Russia. The currency of Russia is basically energy, in much the same way that the currency of the US is the petrodollar, and i.e. its ability to enforce people to have to use the petrodollar and buy energy in dollars. That is the currency of America. The currency of Russia is literally energy. And yeah, I mean, that currency is going up. They will be able to sell that energy to someone. People need it. China needs it. India needs it. I mean, there will be obviously take a bit of time to redirect those supplies. But if that is what is to happen, it's just the end. It's just the end for the economies of Europe and the US. Is literally that simple. They cannot cope with this. Inflation is too high. The indebtedness is too high. The interest rates are just basically at rock bottom anyway. That can't be used. There's no option. There are no options. There are no options. Tina, there is no alternative. They are basically screwed, and that is probably why what is happening. So honestly, just ignore all their PR feel good BS stories that you hear and see on the radio, on the news, on the radio. on the online and whatever. It's all just BS. It's all just BS. BS propaganda. Russia basically holds all the cards, because if the West plays any cards, they are screwed. Like I said, they don't have any cards because of the debt, because of their energy energy dependence on obviously Russia and obviously other energy producers, and also the fact that the monetary system has basically played all its cards, i.e. rates are low and they've done QE forever, and they need to wind that down. So, but yeah, interesting times. Let's hope this reverses and continues up. Let's hope things do calm down in Ukraine, and yeah, things look better for the world, because, like, I mean, we don't really want the US in a desperate situation, because they are the people that are basically the scourge of the planet, that are happy to go and press red buttons in places and drone civilians and just allow wars wherever they want them. And that, I mean, they are the real enemy of the world. Let's face it. So yeah, my views are made pretty clear there. But yeah, so remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.